Good morning. It is Sunday, October 1st, and this is the JRK podcast.
I've been washed in the blood of the Lamb.
Welcome to the JRK podcast. If you're watching on YouTube, Rumble, Twitter, or Facebook, mash the like button, subscribe, and comment what you think I'm going to be getting at today with pigweeds and vaccines. And if you're on Spotify or other platforms, please leave a 5-star review. Just a quick couple of business things to take care of. This week, myself and the band will be down in Gale, Texas, Friday, October 6th. Fridays are usually fish fries because this is West Texas and this is America, but all their food is spectacular. Desserts are always homemade and wonderful. I've been playing the Kyle store since 2016, I believe. Me and Hartley had the first band to ever play the patio there. Good times when she used to come up on stage with me. Well, that brings us to the first topic. News you may have missed this week. Ukraine, Armenia, and deficit spending. This week, 60 Minutes reported that not only are we sending military aid to Ukraine, we are funding small businesses, farmers' fertilizer and seed, and first responders there. Our ideals as Americans are to defend democracy, apparently, though Ukraine has canceled its elections due to the ongoing war, even as celebrities and politicians come and go from Kyiv like a revolving door with a lot of grease on its hinges. Lots of grease. In our quest to prop up democracy, we are also sending funding to Azerbaijan as it commits what many are calling another Armenian Genocide, an ethnic cleansing of a territory whose dispute predates the Soviet Union. Armenians are from the oldest Christian nation in the world, and many folks like Beth Moore and David French will cheer any opposition to Christian nationalism, even in this Christian nation. So I'm sure they are in agreement with President Joe Biden, who waived the restriction that would have blocked aid to the nation of Azerbaijan this week due to the conflict and its aggression against ethnic Armenians. That would be like sending money to Russia as they attacked Ukraine, and yet these anti-Christian nationalists are waving yellow and blue flags for the Nazis in the Azov Battalion in Ukraine. We funded rebels in Afghanistan that will become Al-Qaeda and attack the World Trade Center on 9/11. We funded rebels in Syria that would become ISIS. And if we hadn't learned our lesson, right now we are funding rebels in Ukraine with actual Nazis. Not just slurs that low IQ lefties aim at the far right in America when they are not woke enough. Actual skinhead, chode broom, mustache, Hitler-loving Nazis. It seems we do still have morals as a country in our interventionism, but they are very loosely applied. War is always complicated, and I do not envy those having to make these decisions. But as Rand Paul said this week, quote, "We have no extra money to send to Ukraine. Our deficit this year will exceed $1.5 trillion. Excuse me. Borrowing money from China to send it to Ukraine makes no sense." End quote. And I would add, borrowing money from China to send to Azerbaijan as it ethnic cleanses Armenians from a disputed territory makes no sense either. And this leads us to our main segment. I'll always try to make this topic more evergreen and educational. It will be the title of the show, though I want it to also be prescient and punctual as well. Pigweeds and herbicides, disease and vaccine. In 1996, Roundup Ready soybeans were introduced to the world of agriculture. Controlling weeds had never been easier. Using glyphosate, commercially known as Roundup or other off-brand names nowadays, farmers and applicators were able for the first time to broadcast spray their crops without killing them, targeting only the weeds around them. Shortly after, this gene was added to corn and milo, and in our area of Texas, the cash crop, cotton. I was born in 1990, so as tillage decreased and no-till agriculture became more commonplace, it was hard for me to see any other way to do it. It was a wonderful, albeit short, period in agriculture. The issue we began to have was the weeds became more and more resistant as time went on, mutating and adapting to survive longer and eventually not die at all. Since then, other herbicides have come along, and paired with glyphosate, they are still effective at controlling weeds. But the regulations around them are pretty tight, for good reason I'm sure. But that does limit the days and times of day, as well as times of the year, where farmers and applicators are able to apply these herbicides. Now that's where pre-emergent herbicides come in. In many urban environments, you will see something similar, as lawns are painted green in the spring to prevent weeds coming up before the rain comes. If you use these combinations of herbicides applied correctly and consistently throughout the year, that being your glyphosate type herbicides and your pre-emergent types herbicides, your weeds should not be an issue, leaving more for your crops and maybe your lawn, and making for an easier harvest. I always hated pulling weeds out of the cotton stripper header, and I still do. But this is the real world, and many farmers cultivate farms that are 2 to 20 times as big as their great-grandfathers did, and even more than that in many parts of the country. 40 acres in a mule is now thousands of acres in highly specialized equipment for many farmers. Though this equipment and technology and careful planning can be very effective, the combination of Mother Nature and the logistics of getting all of your herbicides applied in a timely manner doesn't always happen. I have seen and I have been the guy trying to clean up a field of cotton you can't even see because the weeds dwarfed it. If the weeds in the cotton form such a canopy that a pre-emergent can't contact the soil and prevent further weeds from coming up, we might have to spray a kill shot prior to coming back in 7 to 10 days to put a pre-emergent down to try and play catch-up. If there is no such canopy, some can be mixed and applied together, saving diesel and time and money and making only one pass through the field to kill and prevent further weeds. The only issue we have is this: when we have a big rain and can't get into the field, with many chemicals regulated and unable to be applied from the air in a crop duster, the weeds that we end up with, being taller than the cotton, are much harder to kill. This is how variants occur. Roundup, herbicide, resistant weeds. From the title, you might have guessed the pigweed being the major and early culprit. Many call them careless weeds. We may adjust our rates to the max recommended upon seeing this large canopy of weeds. We may have the perfect wind and moisture conditions, but we will likely have weeds survive and be that much stronger against our herbicide package for the next go-round and the next go-round, year after year. That is all a very long introduction, and some of you may have already guessed where I'm going with this based on the title. In this nation, during this pandemic of 2020 and 2021, we had big tall weeds, and we sprayed a pre-emergent on top of it, mixed with a kill shot. If I'm being clear enough, we vaccinated during a pandemic. We had a brand new, somewhat rushed technology that is now considered a vaccine. And we covered 81% of the population, or 270 million Americans, with at least one dose. 230 million received 2 doses. We stopped mass vaccinating around the end of 2021, and lo and behold, the variants decreased that we were tracking shortly thereafter. Though all-cause mortality has continued to the rise to the present day, mostly due to heart issues. I hope I'm not getting too far out over my skis here, riding a saddle bronc with a loose cinch. I am not a virologist or a biologist or a Supreme Court justice. I have just watched, in my lifetime, herbicides become less and less effective. Now, for a caveat, I am not anti-vax or anti-herbicide for that matter. Though I and many of my close friends and family did not receive a shot, I would not put myself in any position to tell anybody not to listen to their doctor or their own conscience, especially the obese smokers and some elderly. The key there, I believe, is health. And that might give you a hint at why I and the other 19 million Americans passed on the shot. A farmer who gets up early in the morning and prepares his field will be ready for the weeds and the rain that may give us a good crop of cotton or of health. But as fear-mongering begins to rise in light of the upcoming election year with masks and vaccines and scare tactics attempting to make people check their common sense at the door, it does feel like another bad dream is coming back tonight, and we don't have our teddy bear or warm glass of milk. Many of Americans are checking out completely, and I do not blame them one bit. But here is my call with this short podcast. Give me a few minutes of your time each week. I'm serious, Tiberius. Fight the apathy. I want to stand up as a voice of occasional dissent and encourage a dialogue between those Americans that still fully trust our institutions and those of us who have begun questioning almost every aspect of our modern lives, because in the past 3 years that trust has been offered out like a handshake deal, and then refused and even broken time and time again. I encourage healthy dialogue in the comments. If you're on YouTube or Rumble or Facebook or Twitter or what have you, I would love to respond individually to each one. I will provide links for all of my claims in the show notes. Many of you are hearing some of this information for the first time because you still only listen to mainstream institutional heritage media. I will provide those links, and if I made an offhand claim and I missed that link, call me out, keep me accountable. Please feel free to request a source, and I will provide one. Thank y'all for tuning in today. If you're on the audio only side, please leave a 5-star review. If you're here because I'm a country singer-songwriter and you're wondering why I'm delving into controversial topics, please stick with me and continue streaming and buying my music. iTunes helps the most. jordanrobertkirk.com has merch available, some personally shipped and some drop shipped, supporting me and my family and this show. For now, those are the best ways to do it. Like, subscribe, buy merch, 5-star review, share with a friend. That might be the best way, in a text or a message. And hopefully next week my studio, which my production company is building, will be ready. Really appreciate y'all. Have a great week.